Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about two major topics that have been very interesting and very telling this year. First off, we're talking about the National Football League. The NFL has been in season this year and they've been very, very woke. They've been spreading BLM lies. They've been supporting Antifa, putting names on their jerseys and wearing all these pride things and just basically trying to get woke and pro-left wing with all the other major corporations out there. They've gone along with this stuff, trying to think it'll get them attention, like people will want to watch their games more, but really it's turned into the NFL getting the lowest ratings ever. Their season's a complete joke. They're a total lost cause. All the sports have done this year, the NBA, the MLB, baseball, basketball, every single thing besides college football really has gotten woke, and that could still happen eventually, but God forbid, I'm still got something to watch on Saturdays. But the point is, NFL's getting woke. Today's an example of that. Today we're talking about a couple of announcers. One is a former NFL quarterback named Troy Aikman, and they're mocking the military who did a flyover at one of their football games. Now, this brings the other topic up. The military is, of course, an interesting topic here. This comes up during election cycles too. We're in the election season, of course. We're about to vote for president, and now we've got these prominent figures at the NFL mocking the military. You see, liberals and the left and these BLM Antifa types, they're taking over the NFL. Now they're mocking the military, but this wasn't an intentional diss, actually. They were caught on a hot mic. A hot mic is what they call when it happens. Basically, you get caught on a microphone you didn't know was on, didn't know was being recorded. You thought you were off the air or something. And that's what happened with these announcers. They got caught mocking the military in a video, which we're going to go over eventually. And we're just going to talk about how messed up this story is because it's showing bad signs from the NFL again, which are already a lost cause. I'd given up on them. I'm not playing fantasy football anymore. I'm not watching any games this year. I'm not sure about you, but I can't stand this anti-American stuff. And in addition, I can't stand anti-military stuff. The military are our protectors. They're great American heroes. They're the reason that we're safe, that we have a defense force to protect us from other countries. We kind of take that for granted these days. It's been a long time since we've had an all-out war. We're not in the days of World War II or Vietnam anymore. Sure, we've had some battles elsewhere. We had a long-running war in Afghanistan, Iraq, Middle East, places like that, but it doesn't come close to home quite like it used to. So a lot of generations haven't had to face that fear of invasion, that fear of being attacked, of not having protection, of having to possibly serve in the army like what happened when people were drafted in World War II and Vietnam. God forbid that happens again. And that's why we should be thanking the stars that we have this great volunteer military. That's why supporting the military is so great and so honorable, just like how we should support the police, by the way, but that's a whole other story. But it is related since the NFL did become famous when they protested the police. They started kneeling for the national anthem when Colin Kaepernick did it back in 2015, 2016 times. And that's where we're going now. Anti-police leads to anti-military. We're talking about protectors. We're talking about law enforcement. And now we're talking about this story. And I got more details on this article right here. It says, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman mock military jet flyovers during football games. Now, before we move forward, let's go ahead and address the flyover part of this situation. Flyovers are essentially when the military takes their planes and flies over an event, usually like a sporting event, sometimes like a field, some kind of fair or something. They'll just fly their planes over it real quick, do maybe a flip or something kind of like that. They might leave a jet stream trail, write something in the sky, whatever it may be. Flyovers are a big tradition, and you could be against that or with that if you want. I mean, I understand being against it. It is kind of what some would consider a waste of resources unless the NFL or someone else is funding those flyovers and paying for it. You really don't want your government tax dollars going towards this kind of trivial thing. But in this case, it's more about them mocking the military. They also say something about Biden and Harris. I believe the line is, this wouldn't happen under a Biden-Harris ticket. And that's what's really troubling for me in hearing this from these big NFL guys, because one's a former player, one's a longtime announcer. They're figureheads for this organization, and they're showing their anti-military bias and pro-Biden-Harris bias as well. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman were caught on a hot mic over the weekend mocking military jet flyover. In a video tweeted by Defector Media, Aikman and Buck Buck mocked the cost of flyovers while calling the Packers-Buccaneers game Sunday. And then the legendary quarterback dropped a mind-boggling quote. That stuff ain't happening with the Kamala Biden ticket. I'll tell you right now, partner Aikman said. You can watch the full clip here. So we'll get to that clip in a second. But I like to note how they call it the Kamala Biden ticket. I don't know why, if that's some kind of slip up, if that's some kind of Freudian slip maybe, because Joe Biden is the head of the ticket. I don't know why he would be second in anyone's phrasing of this. It makes you think that, hey, they know that Kamala is going to take over. They know Kamala is more significant than your average VP candidate because Biden's just not going to make it. Biden doesn't have a lot of gas left in his tank. He's frail, he's dying, he's old, he's going to be out of office definitely within the 4-year term. God forbid he wins, but I don't think he can make it 4 months if we're being honest. I think by 2021, Kamala will take over, and that's why people like Troy Aikman, they know this. They hate Trump so much, they have so much derangement syndrome that they'll vote in any idiot if it just changes things up. So with all that said, let's go ahead and check out the video.
That's a lot of jet fuel just to do a little flyover.
That's your hard-earned money and your tax dollars at work.
That stuff ain't happening with Kamala Biden ticket. I'll tell you that right now, partner.
So this sounds weird to me because the way they're talking, they sound like they're on the air. They're putting on their voices. They're doing a kind of performance the way the guy said the second line there. I don't know if they really meant for that to not be on the air. I know they say it's a hot mic moment. I think that's more of a defense. And I understand the other argument too. Like I get the waste of gas thing. Like don't get me wrong. I understand flyovers are trivial. They're not necessary. They are great morale boosters. It's a great way to honor the military and to get an event going like a football game. But you got to ask, where's that gas coming from? If the gas is paid for by the NFL or some other private company as an advertisement, that's more okay. If the tax dollars are going towards it and we have to use these resources, it's a little questionable. It's not the biggest deal for me unless there's some kind of war going on. We should be able to have a few extra planes and pilots, and it could just take an hour or two. It's not the biggest deal in the world. I really think these announcers are overhyping it and overplaying it because they just don't like the military. They don't like patriotism. They don't like America in general. I think the bigger point here is the military represents the country, and people that are against the military are usually against the country. These guys are patriots. They save our nation. We need them. Even if we're not at war, we need a standing military to defend us in case something does happen. So that's a big part of the reason our country is safe. I think people take that for granted, even older people now, like it's been many generations since we've really been challenged. And that's what's making us more soft. I don't think that's a good thing. I think it's great that we've been safe and we haven't had to have wars or conscription or drafts or whatever you call it. I think that's nice, but the truth is it's a bad look for them to bash the military, to go after these flyovers for biased reasons, and to bring up the Kamala Biden ticket in that order, in that phrasing. It's just really weird. What the hell were Buck and Aikman thinking during this little conversation? Why did they think this was a smart idea? They had to think they weren't on a live mic, right? Rule number 1 of being mic'd up is to always assume you're being recorded. This is a meme saying that's correct. But like I was saying, I don't know if they didn't know they're on a hot mic. I mean, unless they just always talk in that over the top way, it sounded like they were talking on the radio. Secondly, what the hell is Aikman talking about with Joe Biden ending flyovers? I hate to break it to him, but I went to a lot of games with flyovers when Biden was Barack Obama's vice president. Anyone who thinks flyovers are ending if Biden becomes president has no idea what the hell they're talking about. That's true. That's a great point in addressing another part of this problem. It's not going to end flyovers. Flyovers have always happened. It's a big tradition. I mean, they're not a crazy amount. There's not happening all over the place. There is a positive effect to them. It's good to raise the country's morale. It's also something they don't consider is it's a fine little test exercise for these pilots. It gives them more experience. It gives them a chance to take out the ship, which needs to be flown regularly. They get to do a few maneuvers, test out their skills. There are upsides to it. And it's also not something that Biden would stop at all. And I think really the implication is they think Biden and the Democrats aren't patriotic. They're not pro-America. They see this as like a pro-America thing, I think. I mean, I'm trying to do a little mind reading here, admittedly, but I'm just trying to get into their head and where they're coming up with this. These two need to take a deep deep breath and chill out. Flyovers are awesome. They unite us and they're fun experience for people who might not otherwise get to see military planes. There's no reason to get all pissed off about them and mock our pilots. That's true. That's a good point. I think that's a good place to end on it too. It's not this big bad thing. It's just a thing that the military does. Here you can see another video of some pilots getting ready to do a little flying. You can skip ahead and see them take off. It's good. Like we said, it's morale boosting. It's practice. It gives the American people a chance to see their military, see where their dollars go. And also, this is like a recruitment tactic too. You got to remember, this is a way for the military, the Navy, whichever, to get more people to sign up. People see a cool plane, like you might be a kid or a teen and say, hey, I want to fly one of those one day. I want to see what it's like up front. They might never have thought of it. And then they're sitting in at a Bucks game, at a football game, and they see the flyover and they're like, hey, that's pretty cool. I want to fly one day. So there's a lot of upside to this. It's not as terrible as these announcers say. And what's really going on here, this is exposing the NFL again. This is exposing them as hiring biased people and being anti-America, anti-military. This is also showing that we should support the military more. They're being attacked. They're being silenced and kind of misattributed. You know, they're being attacked as these bad people, as these people that are harmful to our country, when really they're supporting our country. They're protecting us. As I said, even though we're in a safer place in the world right now, that's because of militaries like America's. That's because of our country having this buildup of weapons and of all these airplanes and jets and tanks and stuff like that. People take that for granted so much. And I think it's really messed up because they try to turn on them and act like the military is bad when they're really protecting us, and not just us. You got to remember, the U.S. military protects half the world. We're not just our own jurisdiction. We're protecting Canada and Mexico too, all our neighbors. We're protecting people in Europe. This is why these other countries don't have to have big militaries, because places like Britain and France know that America's got their back, so they don't have to build a bunch of extra planes or tankers or Harriers or nukes or whatever it may be. We provide them with defense because we're defending the Western world, and that's what gives them advantages and gives them other places to spend their taxes. I think a lot of other countries don't want to admit that, but that's really the case. That about wraps things up. Make sure you guys comment your thoughts on everything below, subscribe if you're new, and hit the like button if you enjoyed what you saw. Until next time, have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow.